The search for the Titanic was a cover-up for U.S. top-secret Cold War mission. The great Titanic, the unsinkable, which hit an iceberg, broke in half and sunk to the depths of the Atlantic Ocean about 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912. And U.S. stood the first country to find the Titanic wreckage, which sank in the Atlantic Ocean by U.S. Navy officer Robert Ballard in 1985. Now comes the question, if U.S. Navy first found the Titanic, then why the title say, Search for the Titanic was a cover-up by U.S. for a top-secret Cold War mission? But yes, U.S. hidden a dark secret behind finding Titanic. To unveil the secret, now let's get U.S. Navy officer Robert Ballard into the picture, who first found Titanic. Robert Ballard says, the discovery of the Titanic was not actually intended to find Titanic by U.S. Navy, but it was a pure top-secret mission to find their two nuclear submarines called USS Thresher and USS Scorpion, which were mysteriously disappeared in 1960s, along with 99 crew members in the Atlantic Ocean.
The Titanic was really a cover for a highly classified military operation to investigate two nuclear submarines that we lost during the Cold War with all hands, the USS Thresher and the USS Scorpion.
But why finding USS Thresher and USS Scorpion was much important for U.S. Navy? Why not Titanic? There is a valid reason behind that. Let's quickly travel back to 1960s to understand why recovering two submarines was important to U.S. In 1960s, these two submarines, USS Thresher and USS Scorpion, were landed into the Atlantic Ocean. These both submarines belonged to U.S. World War II. USS Thresher and USS Scorpion were equipped with nuclear weapons, Aster Mk-45 torpedo, the anti-submarine missile Subrock, Mk-105 hot-point gravity bomb, and anti-submarine weapons. It carried a 5-kiloton nuclear warhead, having capacity of explosive power up to 30 miles. Now, why U.S. Navy secretly wanted to search Thresher and Scorpion? Because back then, the main aim of the two submarines was to carry out a secret mission to spy on the Soviet Navy in the North Atlantic Ocean and to destroy Soviet submarines. Hence, they secretly wanted to recover those submarines, and they did not want the Soviets to know. Because if Soviets gets to know, they could put a satellite on them and follow them all the way. So they were interested in knowing what's the status of the nuclear weapons that were on Scorpion, and what the nuclear reactors were doing to the environment. Hence, they wanted a cover-up story. Bingo. This is where U.S. Navy uses Titanic expedition as their cover-up story. Now, Robert Ballard, a U.S. Navy officer whose lifelong childhood dream was to find the Titanic wreckage. But he couldn't do it due to insufficient funding, so he approaches the U.S. Navy for help along with his underwater robot craft, the Argo, in search of Titanic. But the U.S. Navy was not interested in financing Robert's Titanic search. But Ronald Thunman, who was the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations, was willing to accept, but with one condition. The U.S. Navy agreed with Robert that they would allow Robert to hunt for the Titanic only if he first finds their two lost U.S. nuclear submarines. Because they thought Robert's underwater robot craft, the Argo, is the best choice to find USS Thresher and the USS Scorpion. On August 22, 1985, Robert with his crew carried out the mission to find U.S. nuclear submarines first. But to the world, it was just Titanic expedition. Robert deployed his underwater robot craft, the Argo, into the ocean in search of submarines. When Robert and his team searched for the two submarines, they discovered that both submarines had imploded in the ocean due to the immense pressure at depth. This implosion led to litter thousands of pieces of debris all over the ocean floor. They also found the reactors, which were surprisingly intact, but lost the capability to function. Hence, crew concluded there is no harm and sent information to U.S. Navy. Finding submarines consumed much time of his, so Robert now left with only 14 days to hunt Titanic. If he fails to find Titanic in 14 days, then U.S. Navy doesn't allow to extend the time and invest in Titanic search anymore. So Robert had to find a way to reach Titanic in given less time. Robert had learned few lessons in the process of finding Thresher and Scorpion, so he applied the same technique to find Titanic.
I had 12 days to hunt, but I had learned something from the Thresher and Scorpion that I couldn't tell anyone, because both submarines imploded before they came to the bottom. So on their way down, the pressure hulls went, And that implosive event is a gigantic explosion. And it just blew the submarines apart. But when I was mapping it, we realized that the heavy stuff went down like a bowling ball. Reactors, boom. But then the lighter stuff was a big, long line. And I went, didn't the Titanic do the same thing? So let's not look for the big pieces of Titanic, because they're only that big. Let's look for the debris, which meant I could space my searchlines much wider apart.
Later, on September 1st, 1985, around 2 a.m., Robert and crew found the pieces of debris lying on ocean bed, and the chain of the debris led to shed light on Titanic. They first identified boiler, which is triple expansion steam engine. Later, they significantly confirmed that Titanic had split in two, where it was surrounded by leather shoes, bits of jewelry, and buttons. While they were enjoying the discovery, one of the crew members looked at the clock and said, "She sinks in 20 minutes." That statement shook them. It was 2 a.m. in the morning when Robert and team found Titanic, and the Titanic sank at 2:20 a.m.
The sucker exists!
We were jumping up and down, we were patting one another on the back, and then someone looked at the clock in the command center and said, "She sinks in 20 minutes. It was 2 in the morning. She sank at 2:20. And that innocent comment just grounded us. And we realized, you have finally put the rest where these souls were lost.
They stopped the ship, hoisted the flag, maintained silence for the loss of lives. The crew became silent. Robert had made a promise to never take anything from that ship and to treat it with great respect. As Robert had less time to explore and study Titanic, he kept the exact location of Titanic a secret. He didn't tell a soul, just to prevent anyone from claiming prizes from it. 1 year passed. On July 12, 1986, Robert and the team officially came again to reach the Titanic wreck. This time he brought the craft, Alvin. Alvin carried Dr. Robert Ballard and 2 companions with it, and released the images officially across the globe. Therefore, Hunt for the Titanic was a part of U.S. secret Cold War mission. But the discovery made headlines around the world. The Titanic incident moved many hearts and will be remembered. That night was calm, the ship was still, until last 5 minutes the realization came that their lives are gonna end. Staring at the death right in front of them and looking at their loved ones for the one last time, while Titanic sank along with the thousands of lives into the ocean depths. Sometimes, something become more famous not because of their creation, but because of their destruction, and Titanic stood in one of those.
For more latest videos, subscribe to Fudge.